talk about policing the truth, Neil.
Yeah, Chris, I'm seeing people running around saying that they want to become ministers of police. Great, but whoa. Policing is not a bulletproof and a gun, a radio, and a spotlight. This is not policing. This is not state security. Policing is something that you get taught at a police college or academy. Just because you understand crime and because you speak out of it doesn't mean that you can be a police officer. This is ridiculous. In policing, there's forensics. In policing, there's something called pathology. In policing, there's something called crime intelligence. In policing, there's something called admin. In policing, there's something called justice, jurisdiction, the understanding of law. You can't just say, I'm a police officer and I can become a police minister. My guess must know more. That is like a plumber saying that he can do cardiovascular surgery because it's about a pump and a valve. Which is ridiculous. So what I'm saying is, stop it now. We have to look at policing holistically. And in policing, we have to look at policing. We have to look at the Department of Justice. We have to look at the Department of Correctional Services because currently there's no corrections happening there. And lastly, one of the greatest, where I come from, one of the greatest factors is intelligence, not IQ. So one of the greatest fights that a government has is to remain in control of what we call the security cluster. So let me tell you, coming from that, having worked in it, having been a leader in it, as you know, being a so-called ex-spy. I never got the watch, I never got the Aston Martin, and trust me, I never met a blonde Russian lady. It wasn't given to me. There's no James Bond on it.
I'm sorry about that, Neil.
Yeah,
my hair was dark at that time.
Ja, die ontploffende Rolex. Intelligence is a very specialized service. And here's it, Chris, here's the fact. I'm open to debate. In the past decade, state security and the departments of justice have been misused. I have evidence. Where in actual fact, state security services, defense, police have actually been a tool, not just to protect the citizens of this republic, but to work against them. Now, don't be surprised. This is what happens when you have a government that feels it loses control. Now, you've seen it in the news. What I've just told you is not news. Have you heard of the word rogue units? Yeah, we've heard it, haven't we? In many news items, there was a rogue unit of the Special Forces of the South African Defence Force. Remember? They exposed them. A rogue unit. Rogue unit in this, rogue unit in that. These are not rogue units. These are units that are either under the police, justice, state security, or defense. But coming from there, I'm not surprised, and I'm bringing you, the citizen, into this factor that if you want to keep control of citizens and you want to control and defend the state, you use the state security apparatus. And I'm saying now, clearly, we are sighing an absolute huge breath of relief. Seeing Beki, Tafeltjie, Stoeltjie, Tsele, Ambagahle. That's a fact. This is a win-win. I don't care what presents you put under Christmas tree. This is the biggest gift to me. So we have an opportunity here to now, in this new government of national unity, Chris, to get this right. Because the way and the reason I'm spending time on this is because no one in this country can argue that one of the biggest things that are killing us is the state of security of this country. That's a fact. So we can spend another hour on the economy, on economics, on the rand, the dollar hedging. If we don't fix Department of Justice, Correctional Services, the police, and the state security apparatus and defense, those five, if we don't fix them, we've lost the war. Because what's going to happen now is even in the government of national unity, they're going to spy on each other. Yeah. They're going to spy on each other. They're going to intelligence on each other. They're going to keep tabs on each other. They're going to look at they're going to do it if they haven't started yet. And this is what's going to cause the demise of a possible government of national unity. I call it, and have always called it, the aha moment. Aha. So you cannot take it. They will absolutely use the state security, intelligence, private security grouping, no matter what you want to call it, that apparatus they are going to use. And what I'm asking is that for once in a long time, we get the right ministers in the right positions that are there not because of their allegiance, their loyalty to, but their duty for. And we must get away from putting people in positions that are not trained, educated, and schooled to be in those positions. And that's my story.
I was speaking to somebody in the services the other day, and he told me that there is no control or accountability, and that some people are just being handed posts and are allowed to do what they want.
Chris, we were lucky. Can I call it in the older days? I'm starting to sound like my granddad. There were not more than a couple of generals. If you became a general 30, 40 years ago, it was a remarkable achievement. I mean, in our times in the policing service, a provincial head of police was not even a general. It was at times a brigadier. We now have more generals, in my opinion, than colonels. Almal het 'n swart. And because it's Oprah, everybody's getting one. This is ridiculous. You cannot have so many generals and so little warriors. Remember, too many chiefs, too many chefs. So we've got to cut them down, and Chris, this goes for cabinet as well. I'm hearing rumors that they're not going to cut ministers. They might add. And as Honorable Sabisa said, he said, people will not mind an increase of cabinet if that cabinet delivers. But it will slaughter you if you add to cabinet and they underperform. So in all matters of this country, you've got to tighten the belt, cut it back, look at tax breaks, go back and give the citizens hope, not just in mouth, but in their bloody pocket. Because this is where we are dying, Chris. We are not dying just as human beings in our hope for this country. We are dying in our pocket. And I'm worried. And that's the focus of the government of national unity. And that's why we are not an oil tanker country. We are a
I was just going to ask you.
Yes.
You sent me a cryptic message about the oil tanker versus speedboat approach.
So I have a mentor. Yeah, he's a mentor of mine. His name is Michael Louis. He's a person that served in the provincial cabinet. He is a huge mentor of mine. He's a great flagpole for justice. And he has never stopped fighting. He's the man that went to the Constitutional Court, by the way. You've interviewed him and spoke about the independent candidate. And not only that, but changing the Electoral Act. And he won on many facets. He's still fighting. Michael Louis told me this. So this is not mine. This is credit. You must give credit to Michael Louis. He said, Neil, one of the most fascinating facts about South Africa, its politics and its economy, is that it is a speedboat country, not an oil tanker. And I went, excuse me? And he went, yes. Countries like China, countries like India, countries like the United States of America, and even the conglomerate of Europe, let's call it the 1 billion factor, are oil tanker countries. So if you take a decision here that has to impact the people here, for those countries, it is the size of an oil tanker to change their trajectory. You're on an oil tanker if you turn 2 degrees north. It takes quite a couple of sea miles for it to start to turn. Whereas if you're on a speedboat, you do that. You turn immediately. And South Africa is a speedboat country. If we take the right decision, it doesn't take an oil tanker time period to change. It can change immediately because we are a smaller economy. We are a smaller nation with a very much smaller geography. So we are 60 million. To change an economy, to change a law, to change legislation where we can turn will take shorter than any other country that has got the mega population. And this is the hope, is that the government of national unity understands it is at the forefront as a coxswain, as a captain of a speedboat country. And this is what we need right now. We better change this thing or we're going to crash into a lighthouse.